My name is. What? Hold on. I couldn't find my grandfather robe, so I've got this blanket. It's almost as good as my grandfather robe, and I really wanted to wear that robe. So my name is Waldog, the holy vampire. So it is nighttime, and I feel pretty good. I want to talk about being an alpha male, how it contradicts and goes along with being a vampire and being, acting and behaving as a rock star would, and how an alpha male contradicts that. And the reason why I want to talk about these things is to have a better game plan when situations arise, which they naturally do. So, we'll first talk about alpha males versus vampires. How are they different? Um, they are different animals. It's like a tiger versus a panther. Like a panther. I mean, they're both actually okay. No, I'm gonna go with that. They're both in the jungle. Got different stripe, different coloration, or whatever, and one is more agile. I would like to think again, kind of just talking, and one is more is strong, and the focus is more on agility versus strength. But depending, strength and agility, depending on the situation, could be, you know, could be the other way around, depending on the situation. If you want to define strength, power, depends on the situation. Um, I think it's easier to, you know, say how they're different. With being a vampire, it's a separate soul, so to speak. With being an alpha male, it's inside of you. Uh, from my experience, it's like a instinctual. So I mean, they're both technically, we're talking about spiritual stuff too, so there's all that, but how it's, spiritual stuff being apart from the body, but also being part of the body. I like to think as the alpha male is more like integral, like this is difficult. Like the vampire is separate. It's like a separate thing. It's like a separate thing inside of me that I don't really have. Like, I mean, yeah, I have control over it, but it's like living in an apartment with another person, right? That you don't really talk to that much. Whereas in that kind of description with the alpha male, and it's like you're just by yourself. It's just you. And it's just your instincts, and you know. So like different things, like different situations, and different um, I say when I'm talking about magical stuff, I talk about components as far as like certain things that are necessary, emotions that can be a component, different physical things, electricity, sunlight, different energy sources, you know. Uh, and for an alpha male, it's like your body configures depending on what is happening and what you're feeling and what has been done. So like it's very obvious to another alpha person how bad your day is going. You could put on a face, but there are certain things that you can see and like, oh, okay, well, you have had a rough day. I can see it. Maybe another person wouldn't be able to see it, but I can see it. It's like one of those things. Whereas with a vampire, um, there's a numbness. There's none of that. Something happens, you go like didn't like different levels of with alpha males, like different levels of body configuration based off of things that happen or are happening. It's very situational. There's a vampire, it is situational per se, but it's like vampires way 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 quicker than alpha male uh, transformations, and that's why I think vampires are much stronger. I'm like talking the tiger versus the panther. The panther is much faster in this. At least I would like to think so. I think yeah. Anyways, in the transformations for vampire, it's just from standing still to in a blink of an eye, a different higher level transformation, and uh, it's like having in that thing inside of you, which is the separate soul, if you will, of being a vampire. Um, it decides when it's that jump in, uh, body physiology. So those are the differences. Now, what I really want to talk about and what's important right now, the difference between alpha male and a rock star. Now, I'm kind of being an asshole because I'm talking around what I really want to talk about, but I'm having trouble talking about it. Clearly, I'm more than a rock star, right? I'm just going around playing guitar, impressing people, and I'm not doing that. I'm not just putting on a show, and being a entertainer, charismatic entertainer. I'm not doing that. It's more than that. Should I say there's more to me than that, and you know, kind of pushing what I plan to talk about aside for a moment. I think what I really am trying to get at, as far as like this being a therapy video or whatever, is that to identify how I want to be, like a game plan for how I see myself, and what I see myself potentially being, and it's difficult. Like this, I feel emotional pain. This therapy, it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Because because I do have, I guess I was gonna say just have an issue inside, but I guess I have a big issue inside as far as based off of that response of my identity. Because, like a thing I've seen, it's like based off of my experiences today, like, oh, okay, yeah, I know I'm this, and that, but now I feel like I have to be this, and that. I have to adapt. And it's like, wait a second, is this the right decision? And I go, or if I use my alpha, if I use alpha male abilities, there's a consequence. Like alpha male abilities and vampire abilities are magic. Like, there's not really a better word for it in my opinion. And there are times when um, higher use of those abilities are necessary, but at a price on my body. And so, well, it sometimes it's like right now, part of being a vampire is, it can affect, it's modulating, should I say, regulating my brain and my thoughts, so I don't get overwhelmed, but also, so that I speak more specifically, so that I don't get sidetracked. So I can focus on the problem. But the way I see it, it's like sometimes when you make a decision, you can just, as a leader, you should be able to justify it, right? Um, if somebody checks you, and you're like, okay, well, this is why. This should, I know I'm being checked right now, but this is clearly that, there's a situation happening, and this is necessary. Uh, but there's usually more than one way to handle different situations, but there are at times in special circumstances when when a leader needs to step up his or her game, so to speak. And like I was kind of so here's a situation. It's hard for me to talk about. I've got some. Let me first say this. I've got a lot of trauma from when I was younger, from making poor leadership choices, just not knowing, not having enough experience. And what I am the heart of the problem is, I want to say it's identifying when to use which one of my abilities as an alpha male or as a vampire. But I thinking of how to handle if I could have handled different situations. Hold on. Thinking of how I could have handled certain situations better. I want to say that well, you should use alpha male abilities first and vampire abilities second, which is how I've been. How I have been just my how I my modus operandi. So I want to say it's just how I do things. But what I'm finding out and what the current how my life has been changing, how I've been how things are now is that it makes more sense. It makes perfect sense to me right now that it's vampire abilities first. And I'll admit that I'm an experienced vampire, but I'm timid. I'm timid because of a lot of reasons. But I listen to counsel, listen to people, listen to advice. I listen. Sometimes listening is just observing, knowing people, you know. Um, and I know that people would rather have the vampire leadership versus the alpha male leadership. And it's hard for me to say that as a alpha male because alpha males are very proud, and it goes against like me saying that to give an example. I'm using vampire energy to can keep myself from being overwhelmed or emotional, And when I lift up on the from that, just like I call it kind of like flickering, is it just a word to describe this? Like letting off on the energy, vampire energy. I can feel should do a body check my body, and my body just like reels. It's just my body just like that disgust feeling. Like the alpha male inside of me is just like, how dare you? So I mean, that's a good example of alpha male mentality, and but no, vampires are not like that. Um, and like I'm so used to, like I said, just if, if there on a if there are issues or something, try to handle it just as a regular person. And if it's too much, handle it as an alpha male. If that's too much, handle it as a vampire, or try to avoid the situation altogether. And usually it's avoid the situation altogether. Uh, but yeah, now that with my current um, body physiology and where I'm at with how I feel, um, it just it makes perfect sense to just stay vampire. And even though I feel that feeling inside, it's like there's a feeling that I feel that it's like trepidation. It's not so much being timid, but it's trepidation. It's not quite fear, but it's like a worry. It's a uncomfortableness. You know, um, because like vampires, from my experience, they don't have that proudness. You know, so it's like, well, why? It's like, well, why? But I've spent so much. I've had so much experience in leadership, being an alpha male. It's like, well, like even when I'm not using alpha male abilities, I still have like that code of conduct. So it's like, well, because it's my code of conduct, reasoning with the vampire side of me, so to speak. It's just like, well, that's just my code of conduct. The vampire side of me is like, you're so full of shit. I'm like, no, me just talking to myself, I don't actually talk to the vampire. There's no, it's not actual. There's no conversation or anything. I'm not talking to myself. There's no. But for therapy's sake, um, it's like you're so full of shit, and I'm like, no, I'm not. It's like, yeah, can't you see you're just projecting your view of reality, and it is so false that the structure of your belief that you're projecting in reality is only substantiated by your determination to and belief, and you're trying to configure this construct because you know how people are, and you just want to maintain control of the situation, and you're doing it because it's just you believe in this. You believe that what your body is telling you to be true. The alpha male side of me is like, hell yeah. Vampire side of me is like, you're so dumb. You're so dumb and so vulnerable. I'm like, well, it's just part of being an alpha male. It's like, and the vampire side of me is like, how can I reason with you? You're not logical. You're running purely on instinct and emotion like an animal. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a pretty damn strong and good animal. And the vampire side of me is like, you're a complete idiot. And there's no reasoning with you. So that's the difference. That's the difference in with those mentalities, difference in leadership, decision making. You kind of you from that information you can tell you can see um, how certain situations could have different solutions, the different ways of solving a problem, and I know that I want to say it's like one of those things where from a therapy standpoint, I realize that I may not know where that trepidation is coming from, that feeling from my experience in therapy, that it's an indicator of a problem, of a trauma or traumas that I'm not aware of or have not exorcised from me, like an exorcist, like gotten rid of or identified problems that I have. And I think that's progress, as far as uh, it's progress to at least admit that I have a problem, so I can start working on it. Yeah, it's definitely trauma. So, uh, yeah, thanks for letting me make this video, and I rewatch these videos and they're helpful. So, thanks y'all for supporting me and my channel. And, I'm gonna go relax for a bit. Thanks.